Aviation has always been about precision. Clear airspace, defined roles, disciplined execution. But the story doesn't begin at 30,000 feet, it begins right here. And today we're about to step inside Volatus Aerospace to see technology, to see strategy, to see operational discipline all come together to scale up what's next in aerospace. Let's go take a look.
Hey, Lyndsay.
Hi.
Welcome to Volatus.
Thank you. I'm so excited. This is going to be so great.
Please.
Thank you.
I started off with a candid sit-down with Glen Lynch, CEO of Volatus, and pulled the curtain back on the vision, alignment, and strategy.
This is such a fascinating place. The minute that I stepped into the doors, you can just feel that energy, and it's a wild energy, and it's hard to explain. So thank you so much for sitting with us.
Thanks for being here. Super excited you're here, Lyndsay.
So I want to actually dive in with some questions and really get into the nitty-gritty behind this. So as the CEO, of course, you know, Canada's defense posture is clearly shifting right now, and we see it, and it's shifting towards sovereign capability. So from that strategic altitude, can you explain to us the significance of this moment right now?
It's huge. And we talk about Canada, it's the most topical thing for us to focus on, but the reality is it's happening in countries all over the world. Mm-hmm. So Canada published its defense industrial strategy a little over a week ago, mm-hmm. and that really gave a clear demand signal on how the government views defense spending, mm-hmm. how it's prioritizing Buy Canada strategy, how it's planning to invest in the Canadian industrial framework,
right.
From an industry standpoint, and frankly, how we're repatriating the 75 cents of every dollar that we've spent in defense outside of the country, as well as increasing spending. Mm-hmm. It's a huge, I would say, a pivotal and transformational moment, perhaps a once-in-a-generation moment for Canadian defense.
You know, that brings up a good point. How does Volatus deliberately position itself right now within that aerospace?
So the company operates where I like to convince people not to look at Volatus so much as a collection of services
Absolutely.
And products, but more as an aerospace platform operating at commercial scale. We integrate piloted aircraft, remotely piloted aircraft, autonomy, manufacturing, engineering, all into one operating model and wrap it all up with training and sales. But so you think of us as a national platform. We've got people and offices and capabilities across the country. So what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Ultimately, the Canadian government has given that demand signal. They need to build the capability and the capacity within Canada. It's a parallel requirement. We're both rebuilding our military, expanding our military, but also reinforcing our economic independence. Mm-hmm. And that means investing in the defense industry. So we're positioning ourselves, hopefully, to be one of the Canadian champions that will help the Canadian government properly tool our military.
You know, these are strategic times for sure, and you guys are definitely aligning yourself where you need to align. I'm going to flip over here. We're going to talk about NATO. So talking about alignment, you know, as NATO alignment becomes more operational rather than symbolic, Glen, how critical is domestic manufacturing in ensuring both interoperability and credibility with aligned partners?
So interoperability is kind of one of the core requirements for NATO, right? We have to be able to function across platform and so on. So that's a key part of the strategy. Canada has a bit of a unique role. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, Arctic sovereignty, Arctic security are huge topics that are being raised right now. Mm-hmm. I think that's where Canada really has an opportunity to excel and contribute to NATO. Because there's really, if you think about it, there's 3 countries that are kind of on the allied list that are that truly understand the Arctic. It would be Finland, Greenland, and Canada.
That's right.
Canada, having the size and the presence that we have in the Arctic, we understand it, which means for us to introduce solutions that are capable of enhancing Arctic security and making that a cornerstone of our NATO contribution, as well as protecting our own sovereignty. I think that's really the real opportunity for the Canadian defense industry.
Well, let's lean into that. You know, these markets right now, they are very fragmented. Yet you're building an integrated platform. So why does consolidation right now and full stack compatibility create strategic lift rather than just complexity right now?
So complexity is a really key word there. So Volatus, we operate almost a closed loop ecosystem.
Tell me more about that.
So we actually have the ability to design, and now to a much greater degree in our manufacturing facility in Mirabel, build drones which we can operate ourselves. We train our own operators, which positions us to train other operators. When we operate drones, it provides a feedback loop that goes right back to engineering to iterate the product. It means that it shortens, it reduces rework, and it shortens the commercialization cycle. And right now, speed matters.
100%.
So that's kind of, I think that's one of the key positioning points for Volatus.
So when you talk about drones, I mean, from somebody who's maybe very green to the space, they're thinking, you know, the little ones that you can go and you can get and you can play around with, but there's a lot more to it, and wow, I mean, even just walking around here high level, those are not just the little tiny mini ones that we're talking about. So can you give us just an overview on the type of drones that you actually are manufacturing and engineering? Give us a little high level peek into that.
So we're answering the call of the Canadian military when it comes to small drones. We're involved in some of the programs and initiatives that the Canadian Army has right now to develop products that meet the needs of what they perceive the future of warfare to be. But the other part of Volatus is we fit in an interesting place. Our own products are focused around, first and foremost, our autonomy stack. So we have a team of people under the leadership of our chief technology officer that are focused on building the brain that ultimately takes the sensor data, talks to the flight controller of the robots or these aircraft that fly around, and really the platform that they're actually on, or the aircraft type and size, is all about what its performance window is. What do we need it to do? Is it okay if it flies for half an hour, or does it need to fly for 7 days? So where Volatus focused was on the larger, more capable platforms. So our aircraft, some of them have 10-meter wingspan. So they're the size of wingspan of a small general aviation airplane, like a Cessna 172 or 152, something like that. Those aircraft are capable of staying aloft for a significantly longer period of time. They're powered by gas or heavy fuel engines. So really, where we tried to fit was, if you think about the small drones, those are the ones that are carried around in the backpacks of the soldiers, or as our CFO likes to say, if they're kind of part of the arsenal, they're a zoom and boom platform. The big platforms that we build are multi-mission. You can attach fuel tanks to them and they'll stay longer in flight. You can attach drop mechanisms and the government can use them, or the military can use them for strike capability. But really what they're designed to do is fly in a space where I like to say capability meets affordability, so semi-attritable platforms. So if you imagine the big MQ-9s, those are massive investments with the military. If they lose one, it has huge consequences.
Fair enough.
So where they need to deploy that type of capability, but in an environment where they want the platform to come home, but if it doesn't come home, it doesn't kind of really harm the military, that's the space that we live. So the larger drones are a little bit, they're much more capable than the small attritable size drones. But if we lose them, then at the end of the day, they're more companions to the permanent assets in the military.
Now, Glen, I want to actually touch on this. What is it that you think that the audience or the market or investors, they're still just not understanding about Volatus?
I'd say there's two things. First, many investors think of us as a drone company.
Right.
And certainly drones are a big part of our operation, but we're a lot more than that. We're truly an aerospace platform that's integrating all of those elements, piloted aircraft, remotely piloted aircraft or drones, autonomy, all into an operating platform. And we're doing that both in Canada, but also internationally through the United States, through UK and Europe. And the second thing is that our revenue is really being driven by two engines that are operating in parallel using a common support framework behind them. So we have a commercial engine that's really being driven by oil and gas, power utilities and infrastructure. Really that one is all the dull, boring revenue that's multi-year contracts and continues to be the foundation of our business and grows on its own. The second parallel is the defense industry, which is being driven by the Canadian Defense Industrial Strategy, increased defense spending across Canada, throughout NATO, allied nations, and so on. So it's not just a Canadian story, although it's a big Canadian story. And the key thing with Volatus is what we do in one translates naturally to the other. So it's not a speculative move for us. It's really what it is an expansion in opportunities that's being driven by two parallel motors.
Amazing. Well, this has been a really fascinating conversation. I thank you so much for inviting us down here. I can't wait to just get in there too and see the products and see where all the brains of all of that started and everything like that. So thank you again.
Lyndsay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Now, where are we off to now?
We're going into the Operations Control Center. So this is where all the action happens. The green dashboard means that we can actually go in, means that they have no active flights right now, because if they had active flights, we actually wouldn't be able to go inside.
Amazing. I can go inside?
Cool. Yep, absolutely.
This is phenomenal.
So isn't this something?
It's like the motherboard.
So we can operate in here for real 200 drones simultaneously with 20 stations. And if the lights in the province of Ontario went dark, we operate for 6 hours.
Wow.
Redundant communications, redundant power supply. We have a terrestrial, there's a server room I can't even show you because I don't have access to it. And then we have off-site servers in Quebec City and virtual servers. So literally complete redundancy to be able to operate this. Every station has more than one computer. Every operator has the ability to operate and oversee as many as 10 drones at a time.
Wow. You know, there's backup to backup to backups here.
That's exactly right.
Each one of these operators is highly qualified and holds an incredible amount of attention to detail. The complexity is high here, and yet the organization that has gone into making this service unstoppable is crystal clear. Now we get a chance to actually sit in the heart of where it all is. I'm sitting down with Greg Colacitti, COO of Volatus Aerospace. You have such a cool job, and I feel like a kid on like Christmas Eve right now. I'm so giddy to just sit down and really pick your brain. And one of the first things that always comes to mind is how unique this setup is. So tell us all the insights about that.
Well, thank you. Yes. So just to start off, the facility we're sitting in right now has capacity to hold up to 20 certified pilots. Each of these pilots that sit in our facility can fly up to 10 operations per person. So looking at around roughly 200 simultaneous flight operations. But what makes this space very unique is that it's built on a level of redundancy. So in here we have basically a 5-hour backup power. So if the power for whatever reason goes out, the operations still continue. To add to that level of redundancy, we also employed 2 telecommunication companies that feed data into our building. That provides us that same level of redundancy where we have automatic fail-safes that are built in, where if we lose some data bandwidth for whatever reason on each of the providers, the system will automatically fail over. So we're not experiencing any interruption in operations.
That's wild. No, I don't know if you can see behind us, but what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So what we have behind us, this is basically the heart of our operation, but what you're seeing is a couple different things, couple different images. In the center one, that's actually an image, it's a video image right now of live footage of our test site. So we own and operate 2 test sites. This one that you're looking at right now is about 100-acre property. It allows us to really build on the technology, develop technology very quickly, rapidly, make changes as we see fit. The facility itself is about 10 minutes north of our operations here. In the second image, what you're seeing, that's actually a commercial operation that we're currently doing today, where we're actually operating out of the Edmonton International Airport. That there is one of the most complex flight operations in the world happening today. So
what makes it so complex?
Great question. So that was a coordinated effort between Transport Canada, NAV Canada, which actually controls the airspace around each of the airports in Canada, the airport itself, so Edmonton International Airport, and ourselves. So it was a big collaboration that brought that entire project together. But what makes it extremely unique is the distances and the airspace that we're traveling in. So where we actually take off from is approximately 500 meters from the active runway.
Okay.
So we're directly inside the airport. We coordinate daily with NAV Canada, so the airport authority. And what we're actually doing on part of that route, so it's a 10.5 kilometer route, but we're actually transitioning and flying directly under the approach path of an intersecting airport, intersecting runway.
Hold on. You're flying underneath these massive, huge jets. What about the vortex then?
So what ends is a very great question. Obviously, you know how to fly a plane.
Maybe
you know a little bit about
bit.
that. But so what we actually do with this operation is we actually hover at a specific area. Okay. So we're able to see our pilots inside this operations center have the geospatial awareness in front of them on their computers to be able to see all the airspace around them. So we can very quickly pinpoint where aircrafts are either taking off, landing, or flying around in a hover formation. What happens is we'll monitor that airspace as the planes are coming in for a landing. As the drone approaches that area where it's going to intersect, the drone will hover in a set position for a set period of time.
Okay.
In this case, it's about 1.5 to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Once that aircraft passes through, we start our timer, and after 2 minutes, we start transitioning directly across that path.
When you're doing your flight planning, do you have to flight plan the same way that a pilot would have to flight plan? So you have to do your weight restrictions, you have to do your calculations, everything, you have to go through that.
Yeah. So the idea is very close. So we tie very closely into the manned aviation side. As an example, Edmonton Airport, we file daily flight plans that we're going to be operating at a specific altitude. We have to disclose what we're going to be delivering. So all of that sort of ties together. For the hospital route that I just mentioned, again, same idea there, but that's more of a weekly discussion for them.
How does that work with air traffic control?
So for air traffic control, typically we don't fall into that same category. Normally for air traffic control, a lot of the coordination happens, it's a two-way communication.
Okay.
We're authorized to listen to air traffic control, but they don't want us to speak back to them.
Okay, so you have a transponder or you do not?
We do not. So
you're not squawking anything, you're just...
Yeah, so we don't squawk. And the reason why, it's basically the regulator doesn't want all these little drones flying, and I say little, but they don't want drones popping up all over their screens.
Well, at some point, they're going to have to evolve into having even a separate system to show where those drones are, because these aren't just small drones we're talking. I mean, this is substantial. So at some point, that's going to be evolving. Do you see that already coming down the pipeline?
We do. And that's definitely something we see. So for the larger drones like the Condor XL, that's going to be a drone that will more than likely have to carry a transponder. Is going to tie directly into the same airspace as manned aviation. It's going to be flying at altitudes much higher than the 400 feet, where its cruising altitude for that aircraft is 3,000 feet. So we definitely see that happening.
On your man-operated air flights, I mean, what are you doing that coincides together? I mean, do they take over here? Do they just stay with the manned ones? Like, how does this work with the whole system?
Yeah, so another great question. So what we're looking to do, what we're actually doing right now, is happening organically right now, is we're flying manned aircraft daily for oil and gas pipeline.
Right.
We're doing millions of kilometers every single year. And what's happening now is we're starting to, replace and augment some of the manned aircraft with some of the drones that we have. And that's slowly transitioning over time, where it's that dull, dirty operations where we can look to bring in an RPAS or a drone into that operation.
Wild. On the operation side, let's talk AI then. How are you incorporating that? Or not yet? So
we are. That is definitely something that's on our roadmap, but it's actually something we're doing right now. So AI ties more into the capture of what we're doing. So on our manned aviation side, where we're capturing data constantly, we're processing it through AI that's automatically pulling out different pieces of data that tell us exactly what we're seeing in real time, and we're able to pass that on to our clients in much faster turnaround time.
There is a lot of people that really still think of drones as a little toy. They're still sort of coming around or processing in their mind that this is not just a little fun little toy anymore. This is something that is substantial in moving these products from A to B in such a it's not manned.
Yeah, and then, yep.
You know, typically. So, you know, now you're going up to altitudes and you're going to these places like the Arctic, like things like that, where you really have to look at those aviation risks. And icing is one of them. So you still, tell me about this. You go through the de-icing process. You're really taking on the whole aviation world. This is not a toy anymore. So I really want to unpack that further.
Yeah, so it's a big responsibility we take on. So the de-icing is one of those big challenges. We're working with a number of different partners to bring these new technologies to market. They're going to be included on some of our aircrafts that are going to be flying in in the north. It's essential. Without it, we can't operate.
So in some of those regions, you know, the planes that, the bush pilots will say that, or they have to have their float rating. So with drones, can you put floats on drones as well?
You can, definitely you can. So think of what you can do with manned aviation, you can do with drones. So it's, you know, we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now, but drones are going to be something that's going to be they are already in our everyday life, but they're going to make things much easier where capturing data is going to happen at such a rapid pace.
So we have to switch over then to the safety part of things, because there's a lot of people that are like, well, this intrudes on privacy. Tell us about how you're navigating through that on the operational side.
So what we did very early on, we understood privacy as a big part of our business. A lot of what we do, almost all of what we do, is beyond visual line of sight operations. And all of our operations, all our drones that fly beyond visual line of sight don't actually have cameras. So they rely on sensors, they don't rely on cameras to see where they're going.
Okay.
So we're never actually capturing digital imageries of people as we're flying over, you know, various properties for that matter. So the idea of privacy is a big part of what we do. So when we're talking about our ISR or our surveillance style drones, that's slightly different, where we're being obviously asked to provide surveillance.
Yeah.
We're being asked to do that, so we're capturing it. We're not keeping it for ourselves. We're passing that data on to regulatory or public safety
And I think
officials.
that's one of the things that's needed, is a lot more education around drones. They're not necessarily all there to do the things that people are most scared of. I mean, privacy, yes, is a very, very big thing. And I think it's really important that we touch on that and we tell these investors there's more to it, and there's more education that they need to know around drones, about the business, and how serious that you as Volatus are taking all of that into effect, and the movements that you're making in the space. You guys are trailblazers. And it's fascinating to watch. I, for one, I live here now, so this is my space now. I want to talk quickly and just touch a little bit about the culture here at Volatus, which I think is very, very important. From the moment that we walked in the door, it was community.
Yeah.
So how are you upholding that, and how do you hold the loyalty? I mean, in the aviation space or in the tech space, there's so much flip and turnaround. How are you capturing that great talent?
Well, fortunately, we're lucky
Yeah.
because we have very cool stuff that we do. We get to play with cool stuff every day.
Cool.
And so every day seems to be a little bit more unique and inspiring.
Okay.
And because of that, we harvest and we're able to attract a lot of very bright people, great talent, some of the best in the industry.
Well, what a great conversation. I'm, blown away, obviously. So thank you so much for sitting with us, and I can't wait to just go and see some more.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we're going to head back towards where a lot of the assembly work goes into our shop area, where a lot of the innovation happens and shipping and receiving activity.
Ooh.
Have a look at some bigger drones.
Really? Let's go check that out.
For the actual insiders, not only has not a single share been sold since we went public, it hasn't even been discussed.
That's amazing. And here's why, people. Here is why.
This is where all the cool stuff happens. So this is one of our largest drones. So this is the one on the left is the Canary that flies out in Edmonton, and this is our Condor. So this will actually carry about 180 kilograms of, you can almost get inside. I'll show you.
The excitement you see on my face, it's like a kid in a candy store right now.
That's phenomenal.
That's the cargo space.
Look, it even
this
comes
one
with
is-
your own car.
Yeah, this one is actually being fit out right now to get it ready to fly. It's never flown yet, so it's being configured. It's literally hot off the presses.
That's amazing. Looks pretty sharp there with Volatus Aerospace right on the side.
Yeah, that's Greg. He's big on branding.
Looks good. So this is an actual drone.
That's an actual drone, yeah. This will fly, so when the blades are put on it, it flies. It's actually a helicopter,
Yeah.
so it flies vertical takeoff and landing. It'll fly for about 200 kilometers.
And this is gas or this is battery?
This one's gas powered.
Do you guys make hybrid?
We have hybrid. We tend to be more specific in either short range drones at the moment that are battery operated, or gas, which is gas or heavy fuel, which are longer range, larger
Absolutely.
drones.
This is beautiful. I love the colors too. Now what about this little one?
This is the Canary. So this is one of the earlier Drone Delivery Canada projects, or the evolution of the early project. It's a cargo drone. So you can see as this opens up, this is where the cargo actually fits inside of this area. That's actually an integrated weigh scale, so it has the capability of being able to determine how much weight is on board. Right now, these are flying about 16 flights a day in and out of Edmonton doing medical deliveries, and the same thing over Western Toronto. So it's used for a lot of shorter range, but urgent deliveries, more medical care.
So these ones are gas or battery?
These ones are all battery,
Phenomenal.
total green.
You're so cute. Boop.
So if you have a look back here, this panel that we're looking at,
Yeah.
that's actually an emergency recovery system. So
No.
if something happens that the drone has a problem that it can't recover from, it actually will solve itself by deploying a parachute and coming down to earth without
like a
causing any
human.
harm.
It's seriously like
Very
a human.
intelligent, yep.
This is phenomenal. These are
cool,
not just little toys. Like these are becoming critical essentials to everyday life even.
Industrial tools.
Whew, my gosh.
If these walls could talk, I would be taking notes. The team here at Volatus is no joke.
I am so excited right now. We are standing in the warehouse where all of the finished product sits. And I'm standing actually here with Rob Walker, CCO of Volatus. I am so excited just to learn more and just to be like, I just want to take it home. She's so pretty.
Well, we'll make it available for you later this year.
Sounds good. I'll just pack it in my pocket.
Yeah.
So this is a drone. I know, very hard to believe, but I want to take you back into that story and dive in a little bit more. Tell me about the origin here.
So Volatus started in 2018, and it was a collection of a few small drone service provider companies that we lovingly refer to as two guys in a truck.
Okay.
And the vision for Volatus was, how do you create a national footprint with that kind of service capability so that the national clients can take advantage of having service available anywhere. So we did that, we grew that, immediately created an internal demand for selling equipment. So we got into the equipment sales and the sensor sales business. And then from there, we realized you got to do a lot of training. So, and it happened at a time when in Canada, they were changing the rules on how you pilot drones.
Yes.
And so several people needed training. So, I mean, we started off in Canada, but then that training business grew as well. So we're now global. We have a brick and mortar, and we have feet on the ground in both Canada, the United States, in South America. We have office in Peru. In the United Kingdom, we're operating. We have about 200 people now. So we started with 4.
Wow.
We're at 200 people. And we have graduated from, we're a service provider. The company's kind of grown into 3 divisions. We have service provision, we have equipment sales and consulting and then training of the pilots. And the beauty is it's a full ecosystem.
Well, I want to actually just lean in a little bit more because there's a big part of Volatus that nobody really knows about, and that is the training part. I mean, you have trained hundreds of people.
Thousands.
Thousands of people.
Thousands.
Unpack this further for me.
So it started, as I mentioned, with the early days of getting your pilot's license. One of the actual original companies that we brought together focused on training. Focused on training is an ex-forces person and a school teacher.
No,
so training was natural. Yeah, training was natural. So, and we've never let go of the fact that we have to keep educating and training the force that keeps coming.
And that's the thing. Is
Yeah,
it's
and that's grown.
So much education still.
And you have so many different regulations country by country. So you have to specialize the training. So we'll do pilot training. That will turn into giving them special capabilities training. That will turn into currency, keeping people current with their pilot license. And then as all the countries and their aviation authorities keep changing the requirements, you know, we're getting into beyond visual line of sight flight. People need way more complex training for that. But we've grown our training capability with how all the regulations are evolving so that we can offer that. And we're offering it globally. And it's a great gateway back into the clients.
That's so fascinating. You know, for someone like me who studied aviation and pilot's license, I mean, looking at this is not what I would think a drone would look like. So there's got to be a lot more of the same kind of training that happens at the same level for something this size.
Absolutely, and it's much more specialized. And then what happens is now governments, military, there's more and more need and interest in the full system and autonomous systems.
Right.
And I referred to beyond visual line of sight earlier. The fact that we can bring that whole ecosystem together, so we're not just selling you a drone, we can provide you that service. And so in the government world, in the military world, we are basically in that consultation kind of stage right now, right? There's a lot more interest, a lot more adaptation of unmanned aerial in there.
So tell me about the credibility that you guys hold then, because there's a big amount of, you know, industrial and commercial credibility. Let's dive into that.
And then again, our divisions tie nicely. So, you know, if you want to look at credibility, we also have our whole manned aviation side.
Right.
So when you combine the unmanned and the manned, you have all types of pilot training that's required, all types of safety operations, your operating systems, everything has to be part of it. But you know, if it give you some credibility, we're doing about 2 million kilometers a year of oil and gas pipeline inspection work, both crewed and uncrewed.
My gosh.
We are doing asset inspections for electric utilities. We've done about 40,000 towers and poles for various utilities.
Even those two right there, I mean, those are big credibility projects that you are hands-on, boots on the ground with.
And absolutely huge safety requirements, system requirements that the client needs you to be able to comply with.
Absolutely. And that was Rob Walker, CCO, right here at Volatus. Stay tuned, there's more coming.
Next up, we traveled into where the brains of the operation land.
Ooh, where it all begins, R&D.
So this is the beginning and to some degree close to the end. So in this area here, this is where a lot of the development work happens for the facility here in Toronto.
Yeah.
We have our manufacturing facility in Quebec City, and then we have another facility somewhat like this in Syracuse, New York, and another one in Emsworth in the UK.
Wow.
This area in the back is kind of where all the maintenance activities happen on the smaller drones. The bigger drones happen either in the field or in the back area where we were just in. But this is kind of where all the smart guys work out of.
Did you ever see that movie, Batteries Not Included?
No.
Very old. Oh, it's
Good
a great
movie?
Yeah, and all these, they all have their little faces, and it reminds me of Batteries Not Included. If
Yeah.
you haven't seen it, you should see it. Very old.
I'll watch. I drive a Tesla. I could watch it on the way.
Never mind.
Okay, so let's talk numbers, because something at this level must come with a large capital backing. So how does it all get allocated?
As we move through this space, each room just becomes more and more exciting. And, you know, I get to sit down with Abhi Singhvi, who's the CFO of Volatus right now. And first of all, thank you so much for sitting with us. I mean, this is phenomenal. This tour has been phenomenal. Each one of you that I got to speak with has been really fascinating to speak with. So this is, you know, where it all starts in the capital, where that capital all begins. So that's actually a really great place to start. You know, when investors look at the financial portfolio of the company right now, how should they interpret the balance between recurring service or equipment sales or even the training revenue?
Sure. So the key difference for Volatus is, we are not a company that sells a product catalog. We always sell a solution. And when I say that, you look at the different segments we have. We operate in energy sector, we operate in defense, we operate in public safety. every industry has a different, unique ask, and we have to satisfy those asks. So I'll give you some example. When it comes to utility companies or energy companies, be it oil and gas, they're not looking to buy a drone. They're looking to buy the inspection data, the true insights that goes in. When it comes to defense, they're not looking to buy a platform. What they're looking is mission readiness and operational capability. Same goes with public safety. They don't want to buy a hardware, they want to see our operational readiness and capabilities as well. So that's how the revenue gets broken down for us. So we sell hardware, we sell data, we sell training. These are the broader three buckets. But every segment is driven by the intent of what exactly does the customer need. Sometimes customer need their own solution, we give them. Sometimes customer need a solution that's not off the shelf. Again, it could be very unique to one particular customer. That's when our team starts to derive a solution. It could be our own product or it could be an integrated solution. We never say out and go out to our customer and say, our tech is the best tech in the world. It could be true at a given point of time, but the industry itself is evolving so quickly that 90 days out, that statement might not hold true. So what we do is we start integrating solution. Our intent is to create stickiness with the customer, to create that recurring revenue. For example, we did $27 million in total revenue back in 2024. We started 2026 with almost 90% of that revenue as annual recurring revenue. And these are 3 to 5 years of executed contracts. So that's how we scale, and that's our intent when we go after any industry sector or the customer. Now, defense is entirely different because in defense, hardware is just a smaller part of the revenue, and we don't want to be the company that just provides a solution to the defense industry, because majority of the economics lies in the sustainment. The life cycle is in the sustainment revenue, which could be maintenance, replacement parts, training, and we do all of those. We want to capture the entire life cycle of the defense industry and not be a partner which says, here's the technology, and they have to then find the partners who can sustain them over the life cycle of the assets. And that differentiates Volatus compared to any drone industry that's operated today globally.
That's so well put. So, your reoccurring revenue is constant in so many different ways, and it's a very smart setup that you have here. I want to flip over to growth. So as that growth accelerates, how do you ensure that revenue expansion improves operating leverage rather than just increasing, say, the burn rate?
So for us, capital deployment is very important. So we internally, myself, we have a mature FP&A team, which is financial planning and analysis team.
Okay.
Every capital that gets deployed goes through an internal hurdle rate analysis, which basically is, what is our cost of capital for the company? And this is not just debt, but also cost of equity, which is we factor in dilution. And then we consider what is the return that we will generate. We always have to make sure that the return or internal rate of return is higher than the cost of capital. So that becomes the framework of any decision we make in terms of capital deployment. Now, coming to growth, we don't want to be a company that wants to grow at any cost, because that's never sustainable. We want to be a company that grows in a sustainable way, captures meaningful market, and there is a contract expansion attached to it. We just started expanding in the US market. It's same strategies what we have learned. The way of doing business is same in Canada or the US. Regulatory frameworks are similar. All we are doing is deploying the same strategies to expand in the US market now.
Okay.
In terms of commercial, every element of the revenue is at the end linked to what's coming out, and that's data. So just saying us as a drone company is actually not correct, because we are more than a drone company. Today we are getting into defense, but in commercially we are more than a drone, but we are a data company.
That's true. I mean, you're not. We've spoken to some of your colleagues, and the message is very clear. You are not just a drone company. And that's something that I think a lot of investors really need to educate themselves a lot further in a capital markets environment sensitive to, say, dilution. How do you balance growth funding with shareholder protection?
So there are different ways and different metrics we measure. Like first, of course, is return on invested capital. Now, Volatus is not at a first thing is we are not at a stage that will start giving out dividends or do share buybacks. Not because we don't want to. If today Volatus says, okay, we have achieved a market size and we don't want to grow, that's one way to do it, but I would call anyone doing it as, not so smart in this industry. The market is huge. There are ample of opportunities, and every dollar we have needs to go in the business, because the multiple on the returns is so high that the giving out dividend or buyback is not the right way to do it. So how we measure is our ROIC, or return on invested capital, is what returns it will generate in terms of shareholder value that gets generated. So when it comes to measuring the shareholder return, the easiest way is, of course, is look at the stock price, right? That's one of the easiest way. We can always say anyone is, look at where the company was 1 or 2 years ago, and look where the company is today. But I would say that's not where the company should be. And the reason is, when you look at the comps or competitions, especially on the US, the industry is trading at 90x or 90 multiple of their revenue. Right. Volatus is trading 10x of its revenue. So there is a big disconnect still between where Volatus should be and where Volatus is.
Let's talk about Capex, okay? So manufacturing Capex requires conviction. What financial indicators tell you the runway supports additional capacity? So
one of the primary criteria we look when it Capex is not speculative projections, but clear demand signals. It's hard demand we see in the market that it's more than a push strategy, it's a pull strategy. And what I mean for that is we're not trying to push Volatus products into the market. We're actually getting asked to get those products into the market. And that's a big differentiator when it comes to any investment we make. Capex is one of the major commitments we have done in the past 6 months. We are setting up the Mirabel factory in Montreal in Canada. We have committed immediately $10 million investment, and that investment is going towards development of series of technologies. Volatus has emerged as a neo-prime because we have won in the past few contracts with NATO allies and NATO countries, right, where we have been down selected as neo-primes. So we have not piggybacking on any big neo or the primes, but we have been down selected to fulfill the contracts directly. We will be responsible whatever happens in terms of the deliverable. That's the modern era of defense that never existed before. And that's one of the reasons why that capital we are deploying is purely based on the demand signal that de-risk the cost of capital, not just for the company, also for the investors. At the end of the day, it's their money that gets redeployed for scaling the company.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for all of your insights and really pulling the curtain back on a lot of the things that investors really want to know on the capital side. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Lyndsay. It's a pleasure.
We started outside talking about precision. Inside, you got a chance to see what that really means. Technology, strategy, discipline, capability. Because the future of aviation isn't coming, it's already being built right here at Volatus. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk with Apiton Media. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.